Hey guys, hope you're all doing well and keeping safe. As for today's topic, I'll be talking about celiac disease. Now, celiac disease is a long life condition and is an autoimmune disease, which means that your body's immune system actually cannot tolerate gluten. Now, gluten is a protein found in wheat, rye, barley, and oats, and it is found in foods like pasta, bread, cereal, biscuits, cakes, etc. Now, essentially, what happens is in our small bowel or small intestines, we have these finger-like projections, which are also called as villi. Now, naturally, when it comes across a nutrient, that villi usually sort of takes it up, and this is how absorption usually takes place. But when those villi usually come across that gluten or that protein, essentially what happens is it doesn't get entered. And therefore, this is when it's trying to get through and inflammation occurs, or worse, it starts to actually cause damages to those villi, causing a flat surface. And this is when it prevents any form of nutrition absorption. Therefore, it is quite crucial for those who are celiac to be very careful to not include foods with gluten. Now, celiac can develop anytime during your life for both men and women. You cannot catch it from other people, but celiac disease is genetics. So if you have a family member with celiac, there is a very good chance that you might carry the gene and you may also have celiac. Now, celiac disease affects on average approximately 1 in 70 Australians. However, 80% of this number remains undiagnosed. So this means a vast majority of Australians who have celiac don't even know they have it yet. So how do you know if you have celiac or not? Now, most people with celiac do tend to feel quite unwell when they have foods containing gluten. However, symptoms do sort of vary from person to person. So some people might feel very unwell. Some people might not have symptoms at all. Some of the common symptoms you do tend to find are usually constipation or diarrhea. It can be one or it can be both. You can get a bit of stomach pain, vomiting. If you're sort of looking at that diagnosis in early infancy, then you can find that there's a bit of growth problems, putting on weight or losing weight can also be another big factor. Tiredness with a bit of low iron, and fertility problems more towards the adult lifehood. Now, there are a few testings available that you can look into. Blood test is usually a common one that you'll find. This usually measures your antibodies. Now, if you are celiac, usually those antibodies levels are elevated, so therefore that gives you a good indication. You can also do a small bowel biopsy, so that's where it looks at that villi testing and damages. This is usually best confirmed if you have celiac. You can also do gene testing as well as doing a gluten challenge, but this is best to consult with a dietitian. Now, treatment for celiac, people with celiac remain sensitive to gluten throughout their whole life. So in that sense, it's never cured. A strict long life gluten-free diet is currently the medical treatment for celiac disease. By removing the cause of the disease, a gluten-free diet allows a small bowel's lining to heal and the symptoms do tend to resolve. As long as a gluten-free diet is strictly adhered to, problem arising from celiac disease should not occur. However, a relapse occurs if gluten is reintroduced into your diet. So that's something you might want to also look into if the symptoms are coming back into it. So essentially, the question really comes is, what can I eat? Now, naturally gluten-free foods are more like your fresh fruits and your vegetables, your good protein, so more your unprocessed meats. So especially if you don't have that marinade or that batter on there, looking into eggs, our nuts and legumes, looking into our dairy foods, so our milk, fats and oils are also gluten-free, as well as looking at our gluten-free grains, more like your rice, corn, quinoa, you've got buckwheat, almond flour, those are quite safe to have. Now, products labeled as gluten-free, you can be confident that they do not have gluten or any detectable gluten, so those are your go-to products. Generally, wheat-free and gluten-free is not the same thing, so you do want to look for gluten-free specifically. Food products that say may contain gluten is also best to be avoided. And of course, we tend to look into our grain food as the obvious gluten. However, we do also need to look at other forms of food, such as our sauces, powders, and condiments. They also do have traces of gluten derivatives, which we need to do a bit of food label reading with. If you plan to go out, you can always look at the menus of the restaurant, making sure that you're able to get a gluten-free meal. So you can always sort of plan in advance. In addition, do make sure that there is no cross contamination. Sometimes things like using the same fryers or same saucepans and fry pans, if we do have food with gluten and food with no gluten, that's a cross contamination, and that can also be another form of causing a bit of GI upsets or any symptoms that you get. Now, I hope this video was informative. Keep tuned for more videos, and we'll hope to see you soon.